والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله الأمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Mercy to Mankind. On my right is Brother Ahmed Abdul Jawad, and on my left is Brother Muhammad Abdul Salam. We would like to welcome them all to our program. Last time we met, we talked about the first migration of the Muslims to Abyssinia. They're trying to fled their country, their homeland, simply because they want to worship Allah Azza wa Jal alone. Yet, the pagans, their people, their blood, did not allow them to do so. They tortured them, and in some incidents, they killed some of them. They deprived them from their basic rights to worship their Lord. Therefore, a number of 16 almost Muslims immigrated to Abyssinia, to Al-Habasha, in the eastern coast of Africa. And soon afterwards, they heard that there was a truce between the pagans and the Muslims. So they returned immediately, hoping to find this news true. And to their surprise, it was not. Therefore, the Prophet ﷺ gave them the permission for another group to go again to Abyssinia. But this time, because the first group were as a scouting group, they saw the environment, they saw the country. Once they came back, they told their brothers and sisters that the things there were settled and it was okay for them to migrate to Abyssinia. The second group were comprised of over 100 Muslims, men, women, and children. They all fled Mecca and went to live in that new land. And it is not easy to migrate from one country to the other. They're not going there to pursue a job or a career. They're not going there to medicate. They're not going there to do something that is recreational. It's not for the recreation they're going. They are going there to flee with their religion, to be able to worship Allah Azza wa Jal alone. And they're abandoning everything that was so close to their hearts, their families, their loved ones, their properties, and everything that connects them with their past. They are leaving all that behind in pursuit of their cause, which is to worship Allah Azza wa Jal alone. Do we think that the pagans left them on their own because they have left their country? They gave them their freedom to worship Allah Azza wa Jal? No. The pagans sent an envoy to follow them and to convince the king and the authorities to send them back again to them. And this is exactly what's happening in the world at the moment. If someone flees with his religion to another country to worship Allah Azza wa Jal alone, he's not a terrorist. He's not an extremist. He simply wants to worship Allah Azza wa Jal in peace. And that is why the Muslims had to migrate to Abyssinia to be able to worship Allah Azza wa Jal in peace. Later on, the pagans did not leave them to worship Allah in peace. So they sent a convoy of two. They sent Amr ibn al-As and Abdullah ibn Abi Rabi'ah with the sole objective to make the king throw them back again to their people and country. What they did was very basic. They started by bribing the clergymen. They went and met the clergymen of the king, who were the priests at the time, and they gave them presents. And they explained to them that to your kingdom came ignorant boys of ours. They are from our country. They have abandoned the religion, and they did not come into your religion as Christians, and made up a new religion that no one ever heard of. And our people sent us to your king so that we could convince him to send them back with us. And we wish, once we talk to the king, that you support us in this process, because our people know them better than you do, and we know their faults and their shortcomings. So the clergymen agreed to do this, the priests, because they were bribed, they were giving presents. The envoys, Abdullah ibn Abi Rabi'ah and Amr ibn al-As, also presented the king himself with these presents. And the king had a title. His name was Asmaha, but his title was An-Najashi. And every superpower had a title for the king. So, for example, Heraclius was the ruler of the Romans, the Byzantines, but his title was Caesar. And also Kisra was the ruler of Persia, and he had a name of his own. So the clergymen agreed, and they called for a meeting with the king, and the king permitted them to come in. So they started saying to him that this is the case, O king. Ignorant boys of us came to your kingdom. They have innovated a new religion that is not their ancestors' religion, and they're not your religion. It's a made-up religion. And our people know them better than you do. And we do not want them to spoil your country. And the dignitaries of Quraysh has sent us to request you to send them back with us. So please do that. Immediately the clergymen and the priests talked and said, yes, we agree. This is the best thing to do. The only thing that Abdullah ibn Abi Rabi'ah and Amr ibn al-As feared most was that the king hears them and listens to what they say. Because they knew that the words that come out of a Muslim's mouth has the effect of magic. It is so convincing, it is so appealing to people. So they did not want anything from the Muslims to be delivered in front of the king. Once the clergymen requested the king to send them away, the king refused that. He said, this is unfair. People coming to my country, trusting me, choosing me over all the other countries. And you want me to send them away without hearing their justifications to what you have said? This cannot be done. I have to listen to them. So he sent his messenger to the Muslims requesting their presence in his court. The Muslims, once they heard that they were requested to appear in front of the king, felt helpless. And they were afraid. Now, we have just landed in this country and we are enjoying the freedom of worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal without being tortured or harassed. And now the king wants us to talk to him. What will we do? He will definitely send us away with Amr ibn al-As and his companions. But faith always prevails. They said, we will go and meet him, and there is nothing for us to hide. We will say whatever Islam tells us to do. So they went there. And their spokesman was Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. He was the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ. So he told him, the king asked him, what is this religion that you have brought to my country? And why did you abandon the religion of your ancestors? And around the king were those clergymen with their Bibles open around him. So Ja'far ibn Abi Talib answered him in a very straightforward way. He told him, O king, we were people of ignorance, and we used to worship idols. We used to eat dead meat that was not slaughtered. Any dead animal, we could eat the flesh of it. We used to do everything that was bad, especially vice. We used to not connect with our next of kin and relatives. On the contrary, we used to abuse them. We used to be bad with our neighbors. We never respected our neighbors. And it was survival of the fittest. The stronger usually ate and overcome the weak. We used to be living in such manners until Allah the Almighty sent us a messenger from among us. We know him, we know his lineage, we know his fathers and forefathers. He was among us, and we knew how honest, trustworthy, and faithful he was. We knew him because we saw whatever he did, and he was not one of the bad ones. He was among the very best of us. He called us for one thing. He called us to worship Allah Azza wa Jal alone and forget everything else that we used to worship and associate with Allah. He told us not to worship the stones, the idols, the trees that we used to worship. He told us and ordered us to be honest in speech, to fulfill our promises, to give whatever we have been entrusted with, and to be kind to our next of kin, and to be kind to our neighbors and give them the best things we have. He told us not to do anything that is bad, and he told us that bloodshed is forbidden. So he prevented us from killing each other. He prevented us from false testimonies, and he prevented us from abusing the money of orphans. And he told us not to worship except Allah Azza wa Jal. He ordered us to pray and to pay money for the poor. And he asked us to fast the holy month of Ramadan. And Ja'far started mentioning the good things about Islam to the king. And this is what we have done, and this is what we have performed. And that is why our people did what they did to us, tortured us, abused us, and kicked us of our country. We have a short break, and inshallah